Allow me to bid you all a very warm welcome to yet another event of our Cosmos Dialogue. The future is born from debating ideas. To replace debate with violence is a threat to democracy and human freedom. The Cosmos Dialogue, a core mission of Cosmos Foundation, is intended to be a conversation starter that will lead to healthy discussions and deepen our understanding of some of the most pressing issues of our time. In the month of September alone this year, the number of Rohingya fleeing Myanmar surpassed even the worst month of Syrian war's refugee tide. This time around, over 500,000 have found shelter in Bangladesh. We applaud the large-heartedness of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, whose unstinted commitment to humanitarian causes has rendered this possible. We all know they must return home, and that must be effected in the shortest possible time.
Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, as your chair today, I should like to thank all of you. The objective of this workshop is threefold. First, to underscore the importance of this crisis, as the presence of displaced Rohingyas in Bangladesh could last a long period of time, exacerbating and also eroding Bangladesh's capacity to achieve their socio-economic goals. Secondly, to examine how the return to their home country could be effected in dignity, honor, and safety, and in consonance with the existing globally acceptable norms and principles. And thirdly, to consider strategies and options to implement the extremely constructive proposals put forward by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at the United Nations General Assembly. In Singapore, when we debate anything, we usually talk about 3-point principles. We try to analyze everything in 3 parts, and we break up a subject of discussion in 3 elements so that we are better able to address these more effectively. The first point is that what is transpiring in Myanmar is a tragedy of a gargantuan proportions. The ferocity with which the unspeakable repression has been unleashed on the Rohingya minority in the Rakhine state is truly blood-curdling. Indeed, to the world, Aung San Suu Kyi stands strikingly in contrast to Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The world recognizes that our Prime Minister has displayed generosity of heart by welcoming the distressed Rohingya humanity, resolutely seeking to resolve the issue peacefully to the extent possible, and the courage of her conviction by standing by what she considers to be just and right. The second point is the displaced Rohingyas must go back to their homes, and they can do willingly only when they feel that they are safe and secure. The Prime Minister had suggested safety zones could be created inside Myanmar under UN supervision. It is hoped that this can be done by recourse to diplomacy. Should that not be the case, the United Nations actually has legislation in place to allow for this to happen. Now, the third point. Myanmar is engaging in enormous military procurements and is obviously readying itself for a possible conflict. Now, these equipment includes 60 Chinese-Pakistani JF-17 Thunder multiple fighters, of which initial deliveries are expected to take place later this year. Tatmadao's formal budget is $2.14 to $2.33 billion. But the Myanmar military can operate through special funds law to grant itself additional resources without going through the parliament, where in any case 1/3 of the seats are reserved for the military. So even if we do not seek out conflict, knowing Myanmar's mindset, we should be prepared for any such eventuality. Perhaps we should take lesson from Oliver Cromwell's call to his soldiers: "Have faith in God, my men, but keep your powder dry." The main challenge with regard to Myanmar is to find the right balance between the carrot and the stick. Since the army began to rule the roost in Myanmar, which has been some decades ago, the international community had opted for this stick. This was when the Tatmadaw had incarcerated Aung San Suu Kyi. When a glimmer of hope appeared with the elections and her being installed as state councillor, the preferred option for the international community was the carrot. Once again, when the true nature of Myanmar polity and the army is being revealed, the swing is, perhaps it needs to be back to the stick. Those who are still providing arms to Myanmar must know they are doing a great disservice to regional and global stability. So with these words, I will open the floor for discussions. The floor, ladies and gentlemen, is open now. Ambassador Selina, Mohsin.
You have spoken of Rohingyas as the citizens of Myanmar, but Myanmar does not consider them as citizens, and they are the largest group of stateless people in the world, comprising 20% of the population of Myanmar. You have spoken of sanctions. Certain countries have invested heavily in Myanmar, and they form members of the Security Council of the United Nations. And I worry that they will not agree to any kind of sanctions that will jeopardize their interests, which they have invested in that country. You've also spoken of, if the public opinion is strong enough and if the United Nations is behind us, it is possible to get a niche or a gap and create a situation where the Myanmar people, Myanmar military, will be able to allow the Rohingyas to go back and live in security and peace. That is a very difficult, complicated situation. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Selina. That is actually the purpose of this workshop. What I have done is laid out the problem and the complexities of addressing a problem such as this. Where there is a will, there is a way, as I believe, and I think it is possible to find a way if the international community acts together in order to resolve this. Mr. Selim Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the time. In 1978, when the first exodus took place, I was working with the United Nations World Food Program, and I was the head of the sub-office in Cox's Bazar. So I have very closely watched the situation in 1978. What I am surprised, from then on, the government of Bangladesh has not really recognized the situation that can happen again, and which it did in 91 and now. My point is that we have lacked complete non-engagement with the people of Burma, the government of Burma at that time. Even after 91, I don't think we had any sort of engagement whatsoever with the government of Myanmar. I don't understand where the Foreign Office in Bangladesh was sleeping at that point, when the military build-up was taking place in Burma. Back in 1962, I think we were much stronger in the army, and even, I think about 10, 15 years ago, Bangladesh had a stronger army than military than Myanmar. But I think that we have completely sort of failed in our engagement with the Burmese government, because it has to be bilaterally tackled. And now, I'll cut it short, my suggestion, Mr. Dr. Chowdhury, would be to have a three-pronged attack. One is to have a three task force from the diplomats who are serving now, the retired diplomats, retired military officers of high stature, bilaterally engaging with Burma, another task force for the UN, and another task force for Russia, China, and India. Every day lost will be a major disaster for Bangladesh, because these Rohingyas, they sort of breed like rabbits. So it is of great urgency that we immediately set up in the Foreign Office.
Thank you, Selim Chowdhury. Yes, General Zahir.
I just want to add to my friend that he signaled 3 diplomatic attack, not a physical attack. But I would say he has forgotten ASEAN. I think that's very important. We need to have another committee formed to read into the diplomacy with ASEAN also. Thank you.
Thank you, General Zahir. Yes, Ambassador Mohsin.
I would like to suggest that not only bilateral, we must engage with Myanmar bilaterally, but multilateralism should be intensified, strengthened, forcefully. Our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, should send special envoys to countries like Moscow, to Beijing, and to US also. China also, India also. You have seen and you have read that Americans, they took great interest. The American PR in UN, she vehemently...
Nikki Haley.
She said that it should be, the Myanmar should be censored. Even UK government, they say that the military should not be trained, and they have stopped training. UE, we should also be engaged with European Union. They have stopped the economic agreement. And France also, they one of the important members of Security Council, they also censored and they say. So our government should take up these things with Western world who have sympathized with them. It is time that we should talk to them, and we should take them on board with us to reinforce these things with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mohsin. Good points. But one of the things at this point, let me interject. We are, of course, thinking of talking and engaging countries, friendly countries, and trying to persuade them that it is in their perceived national self-interest to take a position in Myanmar. But as Lenin famously said, what is to be done? I mean, we engage these countries to do what? I mean, so we have to go a little beyond just engaging the countries. Yes. What are the best effective strategies that we can take to these countries to say that, chaps, follow this, and then we will get some results. So we go to more substantive direction. Ambassador Momin, former permanent representative to the United Nations.
Thank you, Ambassador Iftekhar. I had the privilege to meet many of my former colleagues. By discussing with all these peers, most of them thinks that this issue is very sensitive and complex. There are 2 groups. One group, the Western world, would like to support Suu Kyi because they have other interests. They think only through Suu Kyi they can establish democracy, and the opening, the process started, that can be established. So they have a lot of support for Suu Kyi. The other group, basically China, Russia, India, they think this is an untouchable territory and no Western power should come under various pretexts. So they are very sensitive to this issue. I also had the privilege to talk to Myanmar government. As you know, during this whole period, Myanmar Vice President was around there, and he has been meeting all the peers and the ministers. He also was there at the first public hearing on the Security Council. We sent our DG UN for that event, and the Myanmar sent all the top-notch guys. Anyway, so I had the privilege to talk to him. And my reading is, they are not willing to take a single, Rohingya residents. They call it Bengali terrorists back to Myanmar. So that's the general idea I got. But good news is, prior to the current one, all the 4 meetings, in 3 meetings, all the 15 permanent representative of countries expects, they deeply condemn what Myanmar is doing, the killing. And they don't want to see another genocide or ethnic cleansing in the world. So this is good for us. However, Russia warned everyone that they should stay away from using the word genocide or ethnic cleansing. We have another good news is UN Secretary General and also his entire team, Prince Jayed and others, they have taken a very strong position on it, a very supportive position. So we should work on that. Our PM's 5-point proposal, she placed it before, but I think it needs to be placed before the member states correctly. There is some gap in it. Kofi Annan has done one good job for Bangladesh, because although the Kofi Annan report is basically prepared by Suki, with all the Myanmar people, out of 9 members, 6 of them are Myanmar, and only Kofi Annan is an outsider. But yet, this report is a building block and a lot of support from Kofi Annan. In fact, French, in his first public deliberation, said they will invite Kofi Annan to talk about his report, and this is happening this week. Now, question is, among the Security Council members, out of 5 of them, 3 of them have strong opinion in favor of Bangladesh position, basically in favor. Unexpectedly, the United States took a very strong position, and I was surprised even Sweden had a very strong support for Bangladesh position. However, 2 Security Council members, which is Russia and Russian Federation and China, they were toying with the Myanmar position. They have been our friends, so I think we have a lot of work to do. 4 issues in front of me. One is stop genocide in our backyard, and this is, we can ask the whole global, we can try to get the support of the global leadership as well as media, so that we can pressure Myanmar to stop it. Ensure safe return of Myanmar residents is a big problem. I don't know how much we can do it, but this is a critical issue. Most important for us, these people must go back and go back in a safe home. As regards the safe haven, there is some sort of division because some countries don't want anyone else in that particular region. They think it is their own, backyard. We have one problem: provide immediate needs so that we don't violate the human rights of the refugees. Good news is there are many countries who are willing to support us beyond their regular mandate. Even the World Bank Vice President, Senior Vice President, came to me and said they are willing to arrange a coordinating meeting to arrange the funding and support for those, They all appreciated the Prime Minister's move to accept them. This is, Prime Minister did an excellent job. One thing I think we have to promote, if this issue lingers longer, then it might create uncertainty in the region, not only in Bangladesh or Myanmar. It could be creating an uncertainty which neither Russia nor China deserves. So, if this is one of the issues, then if you keep it lingering, there is a potential and possibilities of creating uncertainty in this region, which you don't want, and therefore the problem should be resolved. So these are some of the things I got from there. And I think we have, as Selim Chowdhury said, there is a lot to do, and I think there is no alternative to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Prince Zayed and Sekjen have been talking of ethnic cleansing. Now, is it possible for the United Nations, for the Secretary General on his own steam, for the High Commissioner to initiate some kinds of actions without a resolution of the Security Council? Can we circumvent the Security Council in your view? Thank you.
given the history of the Secretary Generals, given Antonio Guterres, character that I know so far, it appears that he will not go on his own. He will look forward to the P5. Unless he is bettered by the P5, he is not going to move forward.
Okay, Mr. Makammal,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must congratulate you and the Cosmos Dialogue for arranging this very timely seminar. In fact, it is burning in the minds of many people in Bangladesh and abroad. There are a lot of writings going on, and we must try to collate them and try to get to something which is workable. Mr. Chairman, I am not a diplomat. My only claim to diplomacy is when I stayed with the Commonwealth Secretariat. There is hardly any diplomacy there. I didn't find much really. You were also one of us, but you left us. Your destiny took you away and made you a diplomat. So you belong there. Mr. Chairman, where is the Foreign Office? Many people are asking me actually after this Rohingya crisis. We are all talking about the Prime Minister, but we are not talking about the Foreign Office. I am being very blunt, Mr. Chairman. We don't have a lot of time available to us. I didn't find the Foreign Office anywhere. You look at the photograph published when the Myanmar minister came, looked like he was the head teacher and our minister was a poor student who was going to face the music. I didn't know who allowed this thing to be published in a newspaper, which is absolutely damaging. How can you publish such a photograph in our media? These may look small, but it's not small. What I am trying to say is that if Prime Minister has to do anything, why didn't you make Foreign Office an adjunct to the Prime Minister's office? Probably it will work better. Please don't mind I find several ex-foreign secretaries there, but I think they also must be groaning like me. But didn't have the courage to say it. Many people don't have the courage to say for obvious reasons. Mr. Chairman, I'm an old angry man. I'm pretty old by now. But the fact remains, these are very helpless people at our doorstep. And we have both religious, cultural and other links with them. There is nothing wrong about that. We shouldn't feel apologetic at all. That is one thing. We must be able to first of all decide on what we really want to do with the Rohingyas. This government's policy was pushing them back, if I remember correctly, 3 months back. I am a very good observer of things, Mr. Chairman. Only 2.5 months back, the PDP was pushing away the boats back to Myanmar, giving them a bag of rice and dal and some oil and some cash and said, that's why we can take you in. So you must have a consistent policy. This is the second point I'm trying to make. If the government doesn't have a consistent policy, simply by shifting policies every 2 or 3 months for reasons best known to them is not going to solve the Rohingya issue. Third is that Myanmar is a funny country. Some people used to call North Korea a hermit kingdom. But Myanmar, I would like to describe it as a rogue state, really. It has been a rogue state for long, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm not being I'm being a little blunt, yes, but I'm speaking the truth. Because for 50 years they denied the entire world. It's not simply Bangladesh. And still now, they do everything on their own terms. I was there last year for about 10 days as a visitor from Dhaka Club, along with 15, 20 blokes, and I didn't find any policemen, but things go on well. So there must be something working as angels. I didn't find a single policeman in Rangoon where we stayed about 3-4 days. Nothing.
They are all in white clothes.
What's well. So the army has such influence there, we cannot even perceive. We have seen military rule in Pakistan, in Bangladesh also. There's nothing, there's a peanut. compared to what goes on there. They are allotting big corporations millions of hectares, not acres. And Rohingya cleaning is part of that. It is some lady who is a sociology professor in America, she has written, and some others also have written. So apart from religious and cultural issues and the color of the skin, because Rohingyas are all, the darker side of the spectrum. So that is also an issue. But main issue is economy. And the military, they look at the haughtiness of the whole thing. They have passed a law in which burnt land is state land. Burnt land is state land. That is why they are burning the villages. Because they are, number one, they are going to create an economic zone in Mongol around somewhere. And it is, look at the irony of the whole thing. The military General Line, say that these are not our people. These are Bengali Muslims, Bengali Rohingya Muslims, Bengali Rohingya Muslims. Look at the definition by Kofi Annan. It is Rohingya Muslims. It's not Bengali, but Rohingya Muslims. So religion is a huge issue there. We cannot start this issue. And I think you look at China, why China is with them, not simply because they are more or less, if they are not the same race. These are the Burmese are mainly Tibetan Burmese, and some Hans are there who crossed over. But look at the Chinese, they have been torturing the Uyghurs for a long time in Kashgar and other places. They are not allowing them the religious freedom that is required. So we must not look at them in the way that they are behaving in a funny way. They are not behaving in a funny way at all. My friends in the Foreign Office will agree with me. These things have to be looked into very seriously and decided about it. And Bangladesh has to work very seriously. I think Selim Chowdhury spoke very shortly, but I think very pointedly. Certain task forces are absolutely essential, and our military generals will tell us later on what to do, because I find that there is no military activity at all. They have been trespassing our water, they have been trespassing our air space, our water space. We are behaving like Buddhists, while the Buddhists are behaving like Muslims.
Thank you. Thank you, Mukawwal Bhai. Thank you. I mean, you speak from a lot of experience, and of course, all your comments are noted.
I just wanted to add to what Nasri said. If we look at Russia also, they have problem with Muslims. That China has problem with Muslims. The Muslimness here is an issue. And we can see clearly the position of Russia and China is driven by two aspects. One is it's a Muslim problem, which is a sensitive issue to them. And this Muslim problem, the Rohingyas are terrorists, have been overblown. They are very helpless people. The ARSA and others have been disseminated by us also, by Bangladesh also. We have zero tolerance against these Rohingya so-called terrorists, and we have disseminated them also. They have been disseminated in Myanmar also, so their threat now is minimal, but that has been overblown. So I see the position of Russia and China, like he said, from 2 points of view. One is economic, another is this Muslimness of Rohingyas. So that has to be also deconstructed. And Bangladesh and the OIC should have made a move on this, deconstructing this hate mongering in the world, and also particularly in Myanmar about Muslims, the hate mongering against the Muslims. So we have not done, the OIC has not done, we have not done. So this is high time that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Iftekhar Ahmed Chowdhury. Yes, we are the neighbor of Myanmar. At this time, the whole nation is burning. The heart is burning, crying in the heart, bleeding in the heart. The incident that is occurring in that zone, this is just a superficial matter. But root is in another way. This is the tip of the iceberg. We have to recapitulate, we have to realize these matters. There are four fundamental 500 questions in my mind. Whether the Rohingyas are native nation, native for the country or not. They are residing here, they are more than 200 years, more than 200 years. A nation having more than 200 years is native or not? Answer is yes, of course they are native. Number one question. I will see some question in my mind, then what should be the target, I will solve the problem, what is the mechanism, the solution of that problem. Number two, a Nobel laureate like Suchi is getting Nobel for the peace. But what is happening in her country? Number three, the type of brutal activity ever seen in the world, this type of brutal activity, this performance, I think, this over this Hitler performance, more than the Hitler's performance. Number four, what are the great power doing? What are the United Nations doing? Number five, what are the OIC is doing? Yes, the Rohingya, these are Muslim, these are Bengali or Muslim. Above this, they are human beings. They are human beings. In this era, where we are giving slogan, the might is not might is right, unity is right. In this situation, whether this type of occurrence is accessible or not, I am thinking that this Suchi and his army chief dancing in the stage, and the other nations bringing fruit from the stage. These are thus bringing fruit. Now, what is the root? The root is very deep. Their ideas, target is complete, irreversible, eradication from their native land. Now, what should be our target? Our target to stop the genocide, to stop the brutal activity, to resettle them to their country, and to make them safe. To make them safe. This should be our target. And what is the mechanism? Mechanism is diplomacy. I think a diplomat like Dr. Iftekhar Ahmed Chowdhury, enough capability inside his mind to share in this diplomacy. Diplomacy in several forms that is described by possibly Dr. Mohsin. So to salvage the humanity, and in this way there are some emotion and motion is related. Emotion is disturbed by the, I think, our Honorable Secretary Mr. Ahmed. And what should be our motion? Our Prime Minister is mother of humanity. He is just doing this and that, some superficial, just immediate action, fast action. What is the next action? What should be the final action? I am a physician, I am professor of medicine, Dhaka Medical College. I am not a diplomat, I am not a secretary, I am not a man of administration. I have little knowledge, but this question from Myanmar সম্পর্কে যেসব কথা জানা দরকার, of course, we all the nation, component of the nation should know, must know about this Myanmar. Humanity is first, Muslim is not the first, Bengali is not the first, it is the humanity is the first. Humanity is the first, we have to salvage the humanity.
Thank you very much. I mean, you may not be a diplomat or a general or a civil servant officer, but you are a Bangladeshi, and you're an informed Bangladeshi. You have had a very active role in your university and your medical college, and we naturally appreciate your participation here. I mean, you are an informed, intelligent, educated Bangladeshi, and it's people like you who speak for the people. Ambassador Selim Chowdhury will speak now.
Thank you, Dr. Iftekhar. I'm just making a brief comment on what Mr. Mokammal has already said about the Foreign Office. Where is our Foreign Office? And what policy we have towards the Rohingyas? Now my question is, the Foreign Office is there. Who prepares the policies, Foreign Office or the Prime Minister's Office? There are questions. You just cannot say that Foreign Office doesn't exist. Foreign Office does exist. I'm not in the Foreign Office now, but I was some time back. But its role, whether it is visible all the time or it is not visible. I understand that Foreign Office is overwhelmed, like the entire country is overwhelmed by this Rohingya crisis. And it will not be possible for the Foreign Office to deal with the situation unless, as Selim Chowdhury has told us before. You know, when the whole thing began, end of August, early September, I wrote a letter to the foreign minister saying the same thing, that this is a situation where we have to think out of the box. It's not the normal times that our ambassadors will go to the, respective foreign offices in other countries and put up our case. It is not also enough that the Prime Minister will go to the United Nations and put 5 points and come back and say that, well, we have done it. And the country will say that, well, we went there, we have conquered and we have come back. This is not like that. This is going to be a very protracted situation, a difficulty that we have to really put up a sustained effort. And what sustained effort requires, first of all, I think, in my own opinion, it requires a united country behind any policy that we want. Well, I haven't seen that united policy. We haven't seen the country talking in one voice on the issue of Myanmar. Yes, the government is doing. It is the government's job to do these things. But government's job is also to take everybody along with them. The point that one has to pay, whether we are going for bilateralism or we are going for the multilateral pressures on the international community to act on this. Why do we want to have an international community to take care of this issue? We cannot keep our doors closed to bilateralism. We have to talk to Myanmar. Myanmar is our neighbor. Myanmar, we have to deal with it. We cannot choose our neighbors. They are there. But whether we should put more emphasis on bilateralism or we should more emphasis on multilateralism is something to be decided. I think it has now, we have come to the decision. I have seen in seminars and both the foreign minister, the international advisor on international relations, Dr. Govt, they have all admitted that bilateral approach will not solve our problem. Therefore, we have to go for very sustained and very decisive action on the international arena. I don't understand why Bangladesh should feel that we are very weak. We are not weak. This is a big country, 160 million people. And above everything else, we should remember that Bangladesh was born in 1971 through a freedom struggle, number one. Number two, Bangladesh was born in the international glare with the support of the international community. So why can't we solve our this problem through international community support? It is possible. Everybody says that China has got very big interest in Myanmar. China has got a lot of interest in Bangladesh also. So why is it, if they are threatening our interest in other countries, why can't we threaten their interest? I think as we go along in this workshop, I think in the interactive session, many more issues will come up, and I think we will be able to talk on those issues also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Mohsin, for those excellent points. General Munir Zaman.
Thank you, Chair. My question to you particularly is a kind of a fact check from your side. So the question to the Chair is, what sort of capacity do you have in the Foreign Office in terms of our expertise on Myanmar? Do you have a dedicated desk? Do we have experts? Do we have language experts who can read the Myanmar press? Have we developed any sort of subject specialty? Because this is not a new problem. This is a problem that's been brewing for many, many years and decades. What sort of expertise have you grown, because you're from the Foreign Office? So would you educate us here this morning as to what sort of capacity you've built over the years? And the second question to you, you alluded to the concept of R2P. So I'm checking back with you, which of the three pillars you think are most appropriate or replicable if we talk of R2P? And if you have spent pillar 3, then would you think that it is possible at this stage with this kind of geopolitics and geoeconomics to violate state sovereignty, particularly in a country like Myanmar? So what is the relevance of R2P here?
On the question of R2P, now this is an evolving concept. you see, there was tremendous resistance to RTP for the reasons that you have said, that you see whether it does entail infringement of sovereign rights. However, the wording was very carefully crafted in 2005. The wording was, there are two paragraphs in the outcome report, and those of you who are diplomats here would probably know this, or if you don't, I'm sure you are going to look it up. Paras 135 and paras 137 of the outcome document, which said very clearly that it is the responsibility of all states in the world to look after their population, to protect them from four things. And these four things were genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and ethnic cleansing. Should all or one of these occur in any country, and this country is either unwilling or unable to discharge its responsibility, then this responsibility will devolve on the international community, which, operating through the Security Council, will discharge these. Now, the caveats were that it has to be one of these four crimes. Now, Security Council was actually introduced in order to prevent any further occurrence of things like the invasion of Iraq, which was which we are in many ways still reeling from. So now, yes, you are right. This is what I was question that I was posing Ambassador Mohsin, who is the most recent among us, who has been in the United Nations. That is there some method whereby R2P can be implemented without going through the Security Council? Now, my idea, by the way, which I did not say, that I was very closely associated with framing of the principle, is that R2P begins it's not a military action. It begins long before the cause can be identified. In other words, R2P can begin when any agency of the United Nations, and we have many here representing the specialized agencies, detect that there is a situation developing which can exacerbate. At that point in time, the United Nations can begin operation there by deploying its assets in the specialized agencies capacity. So that is one way to begin addressing R2P upstream, so that it doesn't have to flow downstream. Now, to my mind, the person who is most responsible for identifying that point is the Secretary General. The Secretary General identifies that one of his agencies is reporting that things are happening here which can exacerbate into a situation. Guterres, by the way, I think adopted this Article 99, which has not been done very often, when he reports an international situation and informs the Security Council. He did that. There is a glimmer of a chance. I mean, he has been Prime Minister of Portugal for 10 years. He's perhaps the most experienced Secretary General we've had. There is a chance that some methodology can be evolved in deploying either the entire principle of R2P, but there are many aspects of the R2P principle which can be brought into effect. But the point that I was also making is that as this process goes on, the most effective instrument right now is really targeted sanctions. Targeted sanctions can be done effectively. It can be done without Security Council resolution even, because it will be done by individual states through their municipal laws. That was my idea.
I think one aspect we are missing is there is an unholy alliance between the Burmese army and the rogue monks in Burma.
Yes.
And this is a combustible alliance that is growing. It's like a cancer. So we are looking at the diplomatic at the UN, but what about the local level, where they go to the Rohingya villages and who are behind the burnings and the killings? The monks have been seen with submachine guns under their robes. So this is the reality on the ground. I'm from Chittagong, and I'm emotionally traumatized because I've been to these camps. Our chairman is from that area. 3 of us here are from Chittagong. we see the vulnerability of the Chittagong region, sir, because we were under the Arakanese until 1666. So we will talk about diplomacy, but at the same time, the military of Bangladesh has to be alert. And to be alert, if you remember when you were at the Foreign Office, I came to see you, sir, the need to re-engage with Indonesia, the largest OIC country in the region, who have been neglected over all these years. Indonesia is a very powerful country, and if Myanmar takes recognition of any OIC country, it's Indonesia. And they are in the ASEAN, we have to intensify our relationship with the OIC countries in South and Southeast Asia. That is Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. These countries, look at the GCC, sir. Nobody talks about Saudi Arabia anymore. It's the GCC who is, pounding the poor Muslims in Yemen. So we have to have a sub-regional grouping here, and the Bangladesh Army who's doing, I must congratulate our Prime Minister for giving the relief effort to the Army. They're doing an excellent job, because I've been there, I've seen how they work. And who are the OIC countries who are supporting you? It's only Turkey and these Southeast Asian countries. None of the other countries are even opening their mouths. Has there been any statement from the OIC? Why this inertia? There are 500 million Muslims just in the OIC. But if you take the Muslim communities in the non-OIC countries in the region, it's about 800 million. So this can be a cauldron, sir, if you cannot stop it now. The Myanmar pressure must be borne, but by all the OIC countries, of course, the international community is supporting us. As the professor has said, this is not just a Muslim issue. It is a humanitarian issue, but it can take the ramifications of a Muslim versus a Buddhist conflagration. So I think these are very emotional issues, because my family have been in very close contact with the Myanmaris and the Arakanese for centuries. I mean, up to Akia, it was all Muslim majority areas. They speak a different language, but there is a lot of ethnic connectivity between our two regions, particularly the Chittagong region. So I think the Foreign Office, I mean, we have a very competent Foreign Secretary. It is not only the Foreign Office who has to work here, it is our armed forces, and I think a special small subcommittee of the cabinet look at it, like a war cabinet. Because this has ramifications of turning into a military conflict if we cannot create the safe zone and send them back. Most of the refugees, 70% are women and children. Where have the men gone? Either they have been killed or they're in the jungles of Myanmar. And if you cannot deal with them, these are people who can become terrorists in the future. This is the message we have to give to the international community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Yes, General Zahir, yes, you are.
I think if we study this issue and our responses to this issue since '78, we have been pursuing a policy of appeasement to Myanmar. And this is clear. And we have never conveyed to Myanmar the hard options that Bangladesh has to resolve this issue. We have been, like he said, sometimes there are diplomats come here as if we are guilty. But as we behave as if we are guilty. They do the persecution, but our response is as if we are guilty. We are guilty of sheltering them. We have never ever conveyed loudly enough the hard options that this nation has. This nation of 16 crore people has enough might and strength to face such actions of Myanmar. And we never want to pursue this line. We never, I reiterate, we never want to pursue this line. But it comes to that, then what can Bangladesh do really? We have to really look into this and discuss this. These are not discussed publicly, because these issue states have their own sensitivities and secrecy. This has to be done closed door, but we have never been invited. I am supposed to be an expert on this. I have been in United Nations, I've been force commander, but never ever the Foreign Office or somebody has asked me to join in a meeting, as if we are nobody in this country. This is something I'm sure many of these years, living with so much of experience, who will also express this sort of, what I would say, sort of emotional if I should I dare to use the word disgust, or should I be more polite? In such national issues, we are coming into open forums, but we can't discuss everything in open forums. That needs to be closed forums where we should give our mind. And that has not happened. So I will draw my attention to the Foreign Secretary to this, and I don't see anybody from the Secretary here. So I would say the Foreign Secretary that at least can have close to meetings with some of the people who have some knowledge on these affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure everything that you said is being registered in the sense that that's how opinions are built up. I mean, these are incremental intellectual actions. You make these points, we reflect on them, we extrapolate from them, and then what think tanks and what workshops like this do is to prepare, hopefully, a set of prescriptions. We will go to the policymakers in due course, and the policymakers will naturally take them into consideration, reflect on them, and use them as far as possible, which those suggestions which are in consonance with the policy of the country. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. This is Riaz Ahmed. I am a journalist. Just two of my observations very briefly. One is after the Rwanda and Bosnia, the world should not have seen this genocide in our backyard in the first place. And even so, after those genocides taking place over the last 20 years, UN has some resolution, clear resolution with Russia and China giving their full supports against any genocide taking place anywhere in the world. So I think we should remind, and through our engagements, employing UN over the Russia and China's diplomacy, that to remind them about those resolutions once again. Another thing is, it's a less talked about issue, particularly in a year when we have a very food shortage year. We are actually importing rice for many countries. But at a time when many European countries and other countries are talking about putting sanction, economic sanction on Myanmar, what sort of a signal we are giving to the world by importing rice from Myanmar, of all the countries? Thank you, sir.
Well, a point made, yes.
Just very quickly, I just want to broach something.
Yeah.
The crux of the issue here is such an internal thing, the 1982 citizenship law. I'm just wondering how, what sort of influence the international community could have on such an internal thing as a citizenship law. As you know, 1982 citizenship law classifies 3 levels of Myanmarese citizenship. That is actually, I don't know if other countries are there in the world that follow such a model. And Myanmar, re-emerging out of their period of isolation, I think they're falling behind in terms of thinking maybe with the rest of the world. And can countries like the UK, who do take a very active interest in Myanmar's affairs, can they actually get in their ears and tell them that, look, this sort of citizenship law doesn't exist anymore in this world. Ethnic cleansing, not on. We have to get with the program, and if you are going to be part of the international community again, you have to observe certain practices that make you a responsible part of the international community.
We will offer the floor to the Foreign Secretary.
Thank you very much, sir. By coincidence, I am here. This morning, my respected teacher and boss, Dr. Iftekhar Ahmed sir, called me, and we had a discussion, and after that we realized that he will be having a workshop here. So I had something in the morning, so decided that on way to the office I'll drop by, and that's why I am here. I could not get all aspects of the discussions today, so naturally my short intervention is likely to create more confusion than clearing it, because I was not here to listen to others. Before I do that, let me assure you the Bangladesh government and the Bangladesh Foreign Office is doing whatever is possible, and we are looking at all options. And after looking at those options, we have decided that we will pursue at this stage to peacefully settle this matter through bilateral and through multilateral. So there is a two-pillar of our approach. There are discussions that whether Foreign Office or the government was aware of such incoming exodus from Myanmar. Of course we were, and that is why we were engaged with issues as back as 2008, 9, 10, 11 and 12 and 13. In fact, this issue was discussed in the cabinet twice, and in 2013 there was a strategy adopted in the cabinet. So we knew that this problem could evolve into a much bigger issue. In that strategy paper, which we haven't made public as yet, we had 5 options, and we looked at all the options and we decided that we will continue to pursue the bilateral means, but at the same time we will engage with international community in a rather very discreet manner to make them aware of this issue and its potential to destabilize the region. And that's what we did, started in 2013 and 2014. At the time we had about 400,000 Myanmar nationals, including 33,000 in the camp who were recognized refugees. The others were undocumented Myanmar nationals in Bangladesh. When we were confronted with this year's 25th August issue, we were watching and monitoring both from this end and also from our embassy in Myanmar. Starting in September, we were seeing certain early indications of some activities in northern Rakhine. That resulted into the mass exodus. In fact, I don't know whether it has been discussed or not. They started mobilizing troops back in 7th and 5th of August, 5th and 7th of August, before they went into the 25th. And we were closely monitoring, so nothing came as a surprise to us. That's what we want to assure you, at least to the Foreign Office and to the military and to the intel organizations. We were discussing it because we have a forum called National Task Force, which I head that, and time to time Foreign Minister sits in that. It's a cabinet approved body where we discussed all aspects of this, and these were discussed, is minuted, so where we have categorically brought these issues into the discussion, and we decided as to what that we should do. When we coming into the 25th of August, we were closely monitoring the Kofi Annan report, which has become a central piece for resolution of this issue. The Kofi Annan report, if you look at the first draft and look at the final draft, you will see a huge difference. And this difference has been made, among others, by our strong intervention. There was a team which visited, we sat for hours with them. In fact, the whole 1982 citizenship chapter wasn't there. And still, the way it has been drafted, it's naturally compromised. But that is one area that we said, that is the root of the problem. You have to address that particular issue. And I think Kofi Annan Commission subsequently kept that with the 6 recommendations, if you have read it. And that's why the Myanmar military is very uncomfortable, especially with that chapter, because Myanmar military's narrative is that they are Bengali from Bangladesh, they have no place here. That's what their narrative is, continuing to articulate that, where they differ, I think, with the political masters. So after 25th of August, the Prime Minister decided that the campaign that we were doing rather very discreetly and in a covert manner will come open, and we'll do it very openly. And that's why you see that the Bangladesh's open critical position on Myanmar atrocities came out in public, but it has a long route of 3.5 years underneath, which naturally we did not earlier share, and we were hesitant to do that. Now, there are a number of questions. So that's what the policy, and we have a very articulated policy on this. I can assure you, when time comes, we'll share the whole document with the general public. But I can assure you that we have looked at all aspects, and in that we have said it is a multi-dimensional and multi-layered complex issue. Why it is multi-dimensional? We all know that it has 5, 10, 7 dimensions. Why it is multi-layered? Because when the time passes by, we'll see the different layers are coming and surfacing. So it was basically human movement issue. Subsequently, it became a border issue. It might become a security issue. We are not denying that there is no potential to become a security issue. What we are suggesting that currently we are not making this particular issue as a security issue. Why? Because then the humanitarian issue will take backseat, number one. Number two, it will be exaggerations and over-articulation of security dimensions of the whole problem. So that's where our position is. Now, there's also kind of a discussion as to whether we are going to that country or this country. I can assure you we are going to all countries. And it's not that we are going today. We have been talking to them from 2014. We have gone to all those countries that are being mentioned here, including our close neighbor, far neighbors, farthest neighbor, just name one. And there were times when we had spent hours talking about this particular issue and how it can potentially destabilize the region. So that's there. We have also shared the security aspects of this particular issue. For that matter, sir, humanitarian issue always comes with other dimensions. It's not something very typical to these Rohingya issues. We have also been engaging with all UN system, including Secretary General's office. So when you see that the Security Council is debating yesterday this issue, it was brought to the table of the Security Council 4 times earlier, starting in 2014, when it was turned down by particular countries. So they continue to say that this is something bilateral between Bangladesh and Myanmar, and it should remain there till the 25th of August. In terms of their position, all the P5, at least 2 P5 members' position have significantly shifted, and you will see the manifestations day by day. Yesterday, there was also another Security Council debate outside the Security Council, which is called ARIRA meeting, where Kofi Annan came and shared his own views and opinion on the whole Rohingya issues. And after the meeting, unplanned, he pulled our PR into a room and had a more confidential and open discussions only with our PR, because he wanted to know what's actually happened in reality on the ground. So, and these things are happening not because that today things blew up. These things are happening because we have been engaging with UN system and with the countries long before it really blew up. Yes, there were time in 78, 79 and 92, 90, 91, 92 that my seniors can only tell me as to why only a bilateral approach was practiced. Why? I don't know. I wish one of my seniors here can tell me that why only bilateral channel were used in those days. This time, right from the day one, in fact, before this in 2014, we said bilateral, yes, but it has to be supported by multilateral means. And that's why we did. So I think now we are seeing the result that when things really blew up, multilateral approach came in very handy, because system was aware of the difficulties that Bangladesh is likely to face. I can also assure you, we are in no way in a appeasement mood or in a defensive mood. We are rather in an offensive mode. Offense in a diplomatic term, not in a military term. We are not looking at that options timing, because we think that through a diplomatic means we can in long term resolve this position. We have seen how Aung San Suu Kyi has changed her own narratives recently, as of day before yesterday, absolutely 360-degree turn. We do not take this yet as a very positive movement. We will continue to build our pressure through all means, through all means. Please do not question as to whether we are going there or not going here. We are going everywhere, wherever it is possible, and there is an avenue. But I take your points. This is a very critical issue that we are currently handling, because it is multi-dimensional and multi-layered. I hope the future would do justice to whatever we have, whatever we are doing today, and we hope that these efforts will lead to a peaceful resolution where Rohingyas can go back to their own countries. That's where the solution is, not in Bangladesh. Thank you. If there are questions, I'll be very happy to take questions.
Yeah, we'll take advantage of this and ask questions, but before that, let me just say, Shahid, that I'm enormously grateful that that you came. It's true, this is fortuitous, because I did make a telephone call as I was on my way here, and you can see how speedily he responded to that request. Okay, Professor Abrar.
No, I'll be very brief. I had quite a few questions, but in deference to others, I'll just ask one, referring to the point that you made. You said you thought it's a question of human movement, border and security issue. Is it? Because French president is saying it's genocide. Others are saying it's ethnic cleansing. When a state over decades have crafted a policy of disenfranchising a group of people in a targeted way, put in place laws, regulations, discriminating in every possible way, and the actions that have been deemed to meet the definition, the classic definition, which is very high sort of a threshold of genocide. Are we still considering it to be question of human mobility, border, and security? I think that's where the crux lies. We have to recognize that this act of barbarism in this 21st century began long time ago, and we are at the final solution of it. And unless we recognize that fact and take it to the international community in those terms, I guess our aspiration, all of us share the same thing, that these people should return in dignity. I don't think that will happen. Thank you very much.
I think as a state, when we behave, we have to be responsible and responsive. Here we are dealing with a neighbor who will continue to remain our neighbor as long as we exist. And so whatever we believe or whatever we think should have been is currently not the approach. Prime Minister in the UNGA has mentioned ethnic cleansing, that after long thinking and long discussion among ourselves, it was not easy for us, because we would like to keep a bilateral option open, and bilateral option is the only option through which we can send them back. So we cannot altogether today declare that we have decided to cut the relationship with Myanmar and then go ahead and try and resolve it. I think that will be fatal according to our considerations. Wherever Professor Abrar is suggesting, I think that's the international community to articulate currently, and then take action, including our own civil society. We are listening, but certainly that cannot be, to our consideration, a state policy or approach at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salahuddin Qasim.
In pre-independence, we had Indonesia-Pakistan Economic Council. But unfortunately, after Bangladesh got created, somehow we drifted apart. Indonesia is a very important country in Southeast Asia, being both member of the YC and ASEAN. So how does the Foreign Ministry hope to engage Indonesia in this whole process of reconciliation? And also, if you remember, during 1965, Sukarno had sent a whole fleet for our protection. Let us not forget that, sir. So there is definitely, I would want to know, sir, if you send 1 million people across the border, is that not an act of war? Thank you.
Okay, and Shafkat Munir, and then you can take that.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Shafkat Munir from Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies. I have a question to the Foreign Secretary. We're indeed very fortunate to have you with us to hear your insights. General Zahir made a very important point that perhaps GOB and MOFA could consider doing consultations with experts, retired individuals, and hear their opinion about how this crisis could be managed or diffused. Does the MOFA have any plans in this regard to further engage the civil society?
First of all, exchanging ideas about with experts and policy analysts. I would only say that we have just, I think last week, we organized open such consultations in the BISS. So we look forward to having similar consultations in future. Also, I have seen there are people who are sending us informal notes, letters, suggesting that following things could be considered in terms of our policy making. We'd be very happy and to receive such articles, letters, or non-papers, as we call, sir, in our own parlor. Those are more important than the formal paper. On the Indonesian issue, as you know, that Indonesia was the first to engage. The Indonesian foreign minister came, in fact, twice. Indonesia was, when things were about to blow up or blowing up, at that time Indonesia and foreign minister thought of mediating between Bangladesh and Myanmar. So we are continuing to also engage with the ASEAN countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. Brunei, as a foreign secretary, I shouldn't be making such comment. There are countries in ASEAN who are not very enthusiastic about what Mr. Abrar said, the rights of Rohingyas within a broad category. But Malaysia has been extremely forthcoming. In their deputy prime minister is coming tomorrow. He will also go to the camps, to the campsites. They are more forthcoming, both in terms of supporting Bangladesh, both financially and otherwise, and also politically. There is a question asked that what Bangladesh want. We want support in the international arena. The other country that I should also mention is Turkey. Turkey has come wholeheartedly, and we see a strong manifestation of that both in Geneva, Brussels, and in New York. So engaging with Indonesia, absolutely.
Now, might I request you to join me in applauding our Foreign Secretary for his very forthright and frank thing, and which makes a tremendous contribution to our work. Thank you again, and we break for lunch.